Brace yourselves, because the entertainment world just choked on its own gasp, an incident so wild it shattered the bromance everyone swore would never crack. That golden duo fans worship, Kirk Franklin and David Mann, has crash-landed into scandal, now branded with betrayal, fury, and broken trust. So what blew this lifelong bond to smithereens in mere seconds? Just days back, a fiery clash erupted into a full-on assault, leaving Kirk Franklin in a hospital bed while the music scene reeled in shock. How did things spiral into fists and fury? What venomous exchange behind closed doors pushed David Mann past the point of no return, unleashing rage on the man he once called brother? The rumor mill is grinding at full speed, but one thing's obvious. This isn't some dime-a-dozen celebrity squabble. It's a train wreck of loyalty, raw emotions, and ugly twists. The million-dollar question now: can this fractured bond be glued back together? Or is this friendship officially buried 6 feet under? The celebrity world practically feeds on chaos, breakups, bombshells, scandals. You name it, but few disasters hit as hard as the implosion of Kirk Franklin and David Mann. A brotherhood that once looked bulletproof, stitched together with years of music, laughter, and stage magic, has crumbled into a messy saga of betrayal, suspicion, and rage. For years, these two weren't just colleagues. They were the gospel dream team, a family bond fans admired and envied. Their chemistry lit up performances, their banter off stage felt unshakable, and nobody could have predicted their story would nosedive this way. But then came the whispers, juicy, relentless rumors about Tamala Mann's supposed pregnancy. Suddenly, the perfect bond wasn't so perfect anymore. With Tamala, David's powerhouse wife and public figure, already living under a magnifying glass, the gossip turned toxic. And when the talk of her being pregnant again spread like wildfire, the cracks in Kirk and David's friendship didn't just show, they split wide open. At first, it looked like your standard dose of celebrity chatter, harmless noise that comes and goes. But as the whispers grew louder, so did the friction between Kirk Franklin and David Mann. David, ever the guard dog for his family, started side-eyeing everyone, especially Kirk. Was Kirk secretly stirring the pot? Did he somehow fuel the fire? Or was he just ducking for cover while the drama exploded? That was the question eating at David. Was Kirk the snake in the grass, or just another victim tangled in the gossip storm? This wasn't an overnight blow-up, it simmered. Years of public scrutiny, headlines, and pressure piled high, and David's patience thinned while his suspicion thickened. Then came the breaking point, a so-called private chat between the two. Insiders say it went from calm talk to verbal warfare in record time. What started as a simple discussion about Tamala Mann's rumored pregnancy erupted into an accusation-fueled clash. David's sources claim outright charged Kirk with fanning the flames of the very gossip, tearing his family apart. Kirk Franklin, the ever-calm peacemaker, reportedly tried to dial things down, reminding David Mann of their years of brotherhood. But David, drowning in emotion and desperate to shield his family's name, let fury take the wheel. Witnesses say his voice sharpened, his temper flared, and then snap, he hit his boiling point. In a move nobody saw coming, David lunged, shoving Kirk hard. The gospel world's Mr. Charisma, Mr. Faithful, the man known for his charm and unwavering devotion, just snapped in raw, unfiltered rage. What happened next was bedlam. Kirk stumbled, scrambling to guard himself, but David's anger was unrelenting. A fist flew, landing Kirk on the floor with a thud. The room froze, because this wasn't some petty spat, it was the implosion of a friendship that once felt unbreakable. As Kirk lay dazed, people rushed to his side. Yes, he was bruised, but the real wound was deeper disbelief. How had his so-called brother turned on him so viciously? And worse, how did it ever get this far? David Mann, in that instant, froze like a man staring at his own downfall. He looked at Kirk Franklin, stunned, almost asking himself aloud, what did I just do? What monster had I unleashed? Regret and rage clashed inside him, the bottled fury of years erupting all at once, and now there was no rewind button. Kirk, battered but breathing, was rushed to the hospital, while David stood stranded in the wreckage of his own actions, drowning in silence. It didn't take long for the world to catch wind. News outlets ran wild, fans spiraled in disbelief, and the once golden duo became headline fodder overnight. Audiences who'd adored their on-stage fire and backstage brotherhood couldn't fathom such a brutal implosion. Was this really sparked by whispers of Tamala Mann's pregnancy? Or had darker cracks been hiding under the surface all along? As Kirk heals and David sulks in the shadows, one thing's clear: their so-called unbreakable bond lies in pieces. The burning question now: can this shattered friendship rise from the ashes? Or are we watching the final chapter of one of gospel's most legendary pairings? The fallout from the explosive showdown between Kirk Franklin and David Mann didn't just rattle fans, it sent shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry. What once looked like a sacred brotherhood, a bond cemented with music, faith, and years of shared victories, now lay in ruins. Nobody could have scripted betrayal this deep or fallout this devastating. Lying in a hospital bed, Kirk was battling more than bruises. His body ached, but the knife in his back cut deeper. The man he had called brother, partner, family, had morphed overnight into a stranger. What stung wasn't just the attack, it was the betrayal. How could David, his ride or die for decades, suddenly flip the script? Sure, the swirling rumors about Tamla Mann's pregnancy had cracked the surface, but Kirk never imagined those whispers would trigger violence. He'd always been the steady one, the peacemaker, steering them back toward faith and focus. But that night, something inside David shattered, and once it snapped, there was no pulling him back from the edge. David Mann, meanwhile, was drowning in his own storm. Fiercely protective of his family, especially his wife, Tamla, he saw the pregnancy gossip as more than idle chatter. It was an assault on his name, his family's honor, and how the world judged them. Cornered by the noise, with no safe place to vent, the pressure crushed him until the anger finally spilled out right onto Kirk Franklin. But it wasn't just the rumors gnawing at him. What really broke David was the creeping suspicion that his closest ally wasn't in his corner. Kirk's silence while the gossip spread felt less like neutrality and more like betrayal. To David, it was abandonment, a friend choosing the sidelines instead of the battlefield. Meanwhile, Kirk lay in a hospital bed, his mind spiraling. How had this bond unraveled so violently? He dialed David's number again and again, desperate to reach him, but got nothing in return. The silence was louder than any punch, a wall that hinted at a hidden fracture, years in the making, now split wide open. As days dragged on, the fallout only grew louder. Headlines exploded, gossip sites feasted, and speculation spread like wildfire. Fans were gutted, the media relentless, and suddenly Kirk Franklin and David Mann were trapped in a circus neither could tame. Both men stayed silent at first, their quiet only fueling the frenzy. Was this the final curtain call on their friendship, or was there still a sliver of hope? Then boom, a curveball interview dropped. David, looking worn and heavy with regret, broke his silence at last. "I was angry. I was scared. And in that moment, I made a choice I regret deeply," he admitted. "It wasn't just the rumors, it was everything piling up, crushing me. And I lashed out at the wrong person." His confession was raw, a rare crack in his armor that let fans glimpse the turmoil underneath. Still, not everyone was buying it. Why the long wait? Why let the rumor mill them up for weeks before coming clean? For many, his apology raised just as many questions as it answered. In that tell-all interview, David Mann dropped a bombshell that made jaws drop even lower, hinting the blow-up wasn't just about rumors. He suggested a long brewing tension had been hiding beneath the surface of his bond with Kirk Franklin. Without spilling specifics, he admitted to harboring mistrust for years, quietly doubting whether Kirk's loyalty was as solid as he believed. Deep down, David confessed, he had always feared Kirk wouldn't truly have his back when it mattered most. But Kirk wasn't about to let that narrative fly. After all, he was the one left bruised on a hospital bed, yet somehow David was spinning himself as the victim. In a sharp statement released after the interview, Kirk fired back, "I've known David for so long, we've weathered storms together. But to hear him speak that way, it's like being betrayed twice. He's twisting this to look like I'm the problem, when all I've ever done is support him and his family." Kirk Franklin's clapback may have been brief, but it cut deep. He wasn't just wounded by David Mann's fists, he was gutted by the way David tried to rewrite the story and shift blame onto him. For Kirk, the betrayal hit twice, the bruises on his body and the cracks in his heart. His trust was shattered, replaced with the grim realization that the man he'd called a brother had been quietly carrying resentment all along. As the tabloid storm raged on, more whispers leaked out, hinting that the cracks in their bond had been forming long before fists ever flew. But the big mystery lingered. Was Tamla's pregnancy rumor simply the spark? Or was there a deeper darkness simmering for years between them? Whatever the case, one truth stood tall: their dynamic was wrecked beyond repair. This wasn't a fight they could bounce back from. This was the end of an era. As the smoke cleared from David Mann's explosive attack on Kirk Franklin, the world was still reeling. The gospel stage had never seen a meltdown this dramatic, and fans were left asking the million-dollar question: could this once rock-solid brotherhood ever be patched up, or was it already lying in the grave? Kirk, though slowly healing on the outside, was shattered on the inside. He'd stood by David for years through wins, losses, and everything in between, but now it felt like their entire legacy was crumbling before his eyes. Was the man he once called a brother truly gone forever? Could they ever crawl back from violence and betrayal? Weeks dragged on, and Kirk found himself locked in endless reflection. His hospital room, meant for recovery, morphed into a cage of heartbreak and doubt. Each unanswered day without an apology from David cut deeper. Every ignored call, proof that the man he trusted most wasn't ready to face the wreckage he'd caused. Kirk Franklin had sensed the shift long before fists ever flew. The silence between him and David Mann, the creeping chill in their once warm bond, had been building for years, and the attack was just the ugliest proof. Was it really just bottled frustration finally detonating? Or had David been nursing a deeper grudge all along? His big media sit-down only muddied the waters further. Yes, he admitted to being afraid and angry, but the confession split the crowd. Some saw a man drowning in regret, while others smelled spin in an attempt to paint his rage as something noble instead of brutal. His apology blurred the line between accountability and excuse, and fans were left wondering if he even grasped the destruction he'd caused. Yet David himself wasn't off the hook with his own conscience. In private, guilt gnawed at him, but so did pride. He had wrecked Kirk, yes, but worse, he'd exposed himself. That moment of fury stripped him bare, revealing the insecurities and fears he'd buried for years, secrets he'd never dared to share. Not even with the brother he just broke. David Mann's bitterness toward Kirk Franklin hadn't just appeared overnight, it had been simmering under the surface for years. Behind the smiles and the gospel brotherhood, tension lurked. David often felt pushed into the shadows, dwarfed by Kirk's towering spotlight in the industry. While Kirk basked in the attention, David quietly swallowed his insecurities, never daring to say them out loud. But those swallowed frustrations piled higher and higher until they finally detonated in that infamous outburst. After his interview, David tried to make sense of it all with a few close friends. "I don't know how I let it spiral this far," he admitted. "I've always been the glue holding everything together, but I was breaking. And when I looked at Kirk, the one who was supposed to have my back, it felt like I was fighting this war alone." On the other side, Kirk was wrestling with his own heartbreak. He'd heard the whispers about David's behind-the-scenes bitterness, but David's public confession confirmed the nightmare his friend had felt: abandoned, overlooked, even unloved. Their brotherhood, it turned out, had been paper-thin, hiding years of silence, pride, and unspoken wounds until the whole facade collapsed in flames. For Kirk Franklin, the sting ran deeper than bruises. It was the silence that haunted him. "Why didn't he just come to me?" he confided to a close friend. "What we had was bigger than music. But now, I don't even recognize him." Weeks passed, and both he and David Mann stood at a crossroads. Gone were the days of inside jokes, shared victories, and on-stage chemistry. Now they were just two fractured men, each stumbling through the wreckage of what used to be brotherhood. Meanwhile, the world waited with bated breath, fans clinging to the hope of a public truce, a heartfelt statement, a single sign that this could be repaired. But the silence dragged on, and with it, the chance for reconciliation slipped further out of reach. The question that remains, the one echoing louder than any headline, is brutal. Can this friendship ever crawl back from the ashes? Or are we witnessing the final curtain on an era that once felt untouchable? The path forward was a foggy one. David Mann's so-called redemption arc had barely begun, and whether it would ever cross paths with Kirk Franklin's healing journey was anyone's guess. Kirk, still nursing both his body and his heart, was left piecing together a life fractured by betrayal. One truth, though, was impossible to ignore. This saga was far from finished. The wounds had been exposed, the damage done, and the ripple effects would haunt them for years. Fans dreamed of a fairy tale reunion, but reality was harsher. Not every bond, no matter how legendary, can be glued back together. So the question hangs in the air like smoke after an explosion. Will these once inseparable brothers ever find their way back? Or has the curtain closed for good? The brawl, fueled by years of quiet resentment, left the world stunned. Kirk, broken, David burdened, and the gossip mill ablaze with whispers about betrayal, regret, and Tamala Mann's rumored pregnancy that lit the match. All the whispers and rumors point to something much heavier, a deeper rot neither man dared face until it blew up in their faces. But here's the burning question. Was this train wreck ever preventable? Could a little honesty and better communication have saved their brotherhood, or were they destined from the start to crash and burn in the most dramatic way possible? So what's your take? Was David Mann's meltdown a justified emotional eruption, or just a reckless overreaction that spun out of control? And where does Kirk Franklin even go from here, when his trust has been smashed to pieces? We want your take. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you see any shot at reconciliation? Or is this one friendship too far gone to ever repair? If you're still hooked on this shocking saga and don't want to miss the next twist, smash that like button and hit subscribe. It's about to get even messier. We'll keep breaking down every wild turn in this roller coaster, so share this video with anyone who needs the full scoop on the drama. The truth may still be lurking in the shadows, but for now, the silence between Kirk Franklin and David Mann is deafening. Stay tuned, this storm is far from over.